Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all having a fantastic New Year's Eve here in Australia. I know in America you're a little bit behind, but here in Australia it's New Year's Eve, so I want to take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy 2014. Hopefully it's the best year yet. And obviously this is going to be my last review for 2013, so hopefully you find this one just as interesting. And then hopefully in 2014 you continue to share the support that you've shown for me, that I really appreciate. So tonight I'm going to be doing a review of a horror film from Canada, English language, released in the year 2013, directed by Cody Callahan, and this film is called Antisocial. And the story to Antisocial is as follows. After being publicly dumped by her boyfriend on the social networking site, the Social Red Room, celebrating New Year's Eve is the last thing Sam wants to do. Unfortunately, when she arrives at her friend Mark's house looking for some comfort, she finds a house party already in full swing. She wants to leave, but it seems things outside are even worse. A contagious pandemic of violence, suicide, and paranoid hallucinations have broken out worldwide, and the cause is unknown. With the house in lockdown mode, the partygoers take to the internet to look for answers, but what they find suggests that locked doors and barricaded windows might not be enough to stop infection. So the movie takes place on New Year's Eve. Sam is in no mood to celebrate New Year's Eve because she's just been dumped by her boyfriend on the social networking site, Social Red Room. So she's depressed. Her friend Mark says come to his house, they're going to have a party, and that she can drown her sorrows. So she ends up reluctantly going to this party, and then she finds out halfway through the evening things outside this apartment room that they're in are a lot worse. In fact, a contagious pandemic of violence, hallucinations, and suicide has taken the world by storm. So they're terrified. All they know is what the news reporters are saying. They're telling them to barricade themselves inside their homes, not to leave, and not to let anyone in. So this is what they do. They want to wait out the night, but then they realise that whatever was outside may have already crept inside. So their lives are in grave danger, and whether or not they can see out the new year is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Antisocial. I don't want to give anything away here. It's pretty easy to do it, so I'll try my best. But I thought this is a very unique spin on the zombie/infected subgenre. So if you're looking for something a little bit unique, I would suggest Antisocial, because it shows you it's very much a society sort of commentary, a social commentary on the way we are today. Now, I'm not going to give anything away, but what you see in this film is definitely what the world's become. Now, we're very reliant on the subjects that the movie deals with. And I thought it's very thought-provoking, because the movie says that it does for what happens in this film is the same as what Jaws did for swimming. And that's very true. And after you see the film, you'll see basically, I won't give too much away, but it's social networking. And you'll see social networking in a very different light after this film. You kind of think to yourself, well, I watched Antisocial and I'm using the social networking. I'm a little bit skeptical here. And it does make you think, and it shows you what the world has become and how reliant we have become on the subjects that are depicted in the film. So I thought it was a creative and neat little twist. Although I don't like the way that it came to that conclusion, I thought it was a very welcome sort of change in the horror in that subgenre. So if you're a fan of that subgenre, I would definitely say check out Antisocial, because it is a little spin on it. I thought the fact that it was low budget, I thought worked into its hands quite decently. I thought that the majority of the film is filmed inside the apartment room. And I thought that was great, because it leaves up to the imagination what's going on outside. So Pontypool is very reminiscent in that you've got a room, you've got a central few characters, and that's basically it. And then you're just as oblivious to the situation outside as they are. So you feel like another character. You feel like you're inside that room, and when they look through the barricaded windows to try and see what's going on outside, you want to see that as well. So it's not a case of the viewer knowing what's going on outside, but the characters don't. You don't know what's going outside, because it feels like this is the universe, and that the news reports are getting worse and worse, and so you can feel that paranoia growing and growing and growing. And that's why atmospherically I think it worked, because you didn't see what was going on outside, and it was also it was a limitating, is that a word? Is a limitation of the budget, and I thought it worked to its favour, because if this was on a broader scale and you knew what was going on outside, it wouldn't have the same effect. So I thought that was a masterstroke from the director, and it worked really well, because as I said, you don't know what's going on outside. All you see is this news report, so you don't know if the place has completely gone to hell, or if that area hasn't been affected yet. So it's always playing on your mind, and I think that it creates a really tense and claustrophobic feeling in that the outside world is closing in, that everything's being infected. You hear all these bad reports, and that it's just closing in and suffocating this one little room that seems to be the only safe place. And then as the movie progresses, you start to realize that maybe this safe place isn't so safe after all. So it's a very tense and claustrophobic feeling that the film has, and that is a element to the movie that I wasn't expecting. It's a very psychological film, and I thought it worked pretty well. Now, there are some pretty good horror set pieces. There's a little bit of gore towards the end. I was surprised to see that this is not a gore film. It does rely on atmosphere, which I thought was good. It was something of a change. I think it's very easy for a low-budget movie just to rely on shock value. But this one, I thought the tense atmosphere worked very well. Unfortunately, though, with the budget comes a problem that I'm going to go into a little bit later. And that's unfortunately what the problem with the whole film is that all the positives to the movie have overwhelming negatives. Now, the social commentary that the movie has, I thought, how did they come to that conclusion? And it was a convenient plot point so the characters knew what was going on, so the audience felt like they were in control. Why in films like this does everybody need a reason for something to happen? And what it does is that when the characters know what's going on, they have a way to combat this illness, and it gives the viewer some hope. And that's just not the way it works in real life. I remember a few years ago when the meningococcal disease here in Australia, in Canberra, there was an outbreak of it, and we didn't know how to combat it, and that the only thing we could do was pray that it wasn't too bad and we can go to hospital. And that unknown sort of presence is what keeps the fear inside you. But when you know what's going on and the characters have some grasp of what's going on, then they can fight it. It gives you hope. It gives you that sense of security. And that's ultimately what lets this film down, is that it felt like a convenient plot point, in the fact that the director just wanted to throw something out very conveniently for the characters to know what was going on, and it just felt really unrealistic. It felt like, how could you come to that conclusion? It was very much like Pontypool. The conclusion in Pontypool, the way that they came up with what was going on, completely ruined the film. So it was ridiculous. And I thought it would have been a lot better if it left uncertainty. Why is this thing working? Maybe the viewer could know what was going on, but the characters knowing what was going on gives them a reason to try and combat it, and then it just falls down a very generic type. And that's what lets Antisocial down as far as the story is concerned. That ridiculous sort of conclusion that the characters come up to in order to fight this virus and in order to try and get out of this ordeal in one piece. It's been done 100 times before, and unfortunately, towards the last 3/4, it does fall down very familiar territory, and therefore it does become quite predictable. Now, the problem with the setting of the film being in the apartment room, yes, it does have a very good creepy, sort of tense, claustrophobic atmosphere, but the characters are what the film's main purpose. The main focus is a character-driven horror film, but you just don't care about the characters. The acting is pretty bad. The main character does an okay job, but the rest of the characters are not very good because they don't have anything to play with. The script is lacking, and also the characters are just very cardboard cutout. So when the focus is on these characters, how they're trying to overcome this problem, you don't feel that they're authentic. You feel that they're reading from a script, therefore you can't connect with them. You feel that the interactions between them don't come across as proper friends. So if you don't care about them, what you care about is what's going on outside. So when you get these characters talking and trying to combat these things, you just don't care, and therefore it becomes tedious, and you feel like it's distracting you from wanting to know what is going on outside. And I thought that as soon as it starts to get into these characters, it just stops and it just continues to drag. And then it steps up a little bit towards the end, but ultimately what prevents the movie from working is the fact that the characters aren't very good and the movie relies on the characters. And so I thought that that was a big letdown, and unfortunately the movie should have been a lot better than it actually was. And unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it as much as I probably should have, because atmospherically it was very good. Thought it had a very real sort of frightening message. And I like the fact that leaving it up to your imagination, but unfortunately the conclusion that they came to was ridiculous. It really took me out of it, and I thought the characters were just not interesting enough. The acting wasn't too bad, but it really felt like in some elements the low budget really worked for it, and in other elements it worked against it. So unfortunately, Antisocial, definitely not the film I was hoping it would be. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. 2.5 because it does have some positives, but unfortunately for every positive there is a negative. So I'm going to recommend it if you're a fan of the subgenre of zombie/infected, but if you want something that's going to blow you out of the water, then Antisocial probably isn't it, because I was just hoping for something much more, and unfortunately the director just doesn't quite deliver. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. So next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.